Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking season 1 of Riverdale. And so in this review, I'm not going to get into spoilers or anything. I'm going to talk a little bit about the characters in a really general sense, but obviously I don't want to really get into the big mystery or the big character arcs over the course of this season. Although why you're watching this review, if you haven't already watched it, is a little bit beyond me. But if you're just wanting to hear somebody's opinions about the season without getting into spoilers, well, okay, well, you got you covered here. So with that said, let me just kind of get right into it. Now, I've never been really a huge Archie person, but like most people, I who grew up in the United States, I did read Archie sometimes as a kid. There was even an animated Archie show on the air back when I was really young, and they were fun, but they were just to me always just kind of disposable comics, like the things you like buy a kid, like you would buy the double digests to basically shut up a noisy kid at the supermarket if you were like a parent having a rough day. So I did have some affection for the characters from my youth, but for the most part, it was just sort of like, well, I liked them a little bit when I was a kid, but that was about it. And then in recent years, the comics started trying to, sort of really mix things up with that with Archie. They started doing like Archie the Married Life, which showed two different timelines: one in which Archie married Betty, another one in which Archie married Veronica. And I happened to see some of these at the local library one day, and just out of curiosity, picked them up because I'd heard really good things about them because from people who had read them. And those turned out to be really, really good stories. I mean, it still felt like Archie, it still looked like Archie, but there were definitely much more serious things happening in the stories. And it was a much more dramatic thing. I mean, in the comics, Archie was usually just very feel good entertainment that was ultimately pretty disposable. And there's also another series called Afterlife with Archie, which basically, the Archie characters trying to survive a zombie apocalypse. I've read the first collection of that, and it's also quite good. It's sort of like Archie meets The Walking Dead, but it still does have that Archie sensibility in there. I mean, the characters are very recognizable as the ones that we've known for so long, but they've been taken and made a little bit more realistic. And that brings us to Riverdale, and this is basically you take the Archie characters and you turn them into a CW show, which is exactly what happens. I mean, I love the CW. It's basically my favorite network. The majority of stuff I review on my channel is are programs from the CW, and the CW knows itself very well. It knows what it does well, and it knows kind of what a lot of its core audience goes for. Especially with things like the originals and Vampire Diaries and Flash. I mean, they're very good at catering to that younger demographic. And with those first two shows that I mentioned, in all fairness, I don't super know those series very well, but I know a little bit about them. They know how to kind of really cater to that angsty drama thing with crazy elements thrown in. I mean, if you could sum up the CW stock and trade in one sentence, I think that would be it. And this, of course, proved controversial amongst some people who were very ardent in defending the traditional interpretation of the characters. And okay, fair enough. Not every interpretation of a character is going to go over well with everyone. But that said, the idea that you couldn't tell more mature Archie stories with the characters from Archie, well, I mean, that had obviously been disproven well before the show ever came on the air with Married Life and Afterlife. And it would just be a question of like, well, okay, how far can you take these characters in this sort of direction and still have them be the characters that people know and love? And Riverdale answers that question, and I think that answer is actually pretty good. I really did like this series. I really liked their take on pretty much everybody. Um, Maybe they were made Josie just a little too unlikable, but they also gave her elements that were sympathetic. So and she was a supporting character, so that I'm kind of willing to kind of give them a little time to sort of work out exactly what they want to do with her and the rest of the Pussycats. My main gripe really was with Kevin, where in the comics, like, he's a gay character, he's a gay guy, but apart from that, he's just like everybody else. He's just a guy who happens to be gay. And here on the show, they unfortunately, in my opinion, kind of went with the very stereotypical, very camp sort of gay characterization for Kevin, which, I mean, they did stuff with him that was interesting. He did have some fun. He had a lot of funny moments. He did have some emotional moments, and I did like the character. But I wish they had done here on this one. I do wish they had stuck more closely to the comics, where he was, did not have those rather stereotypical traits. Of course, Reggie, one of the core main characters on the show, I mean the comics, is more of a side character here. And okay, fair enough. This is a pretty large cast. There's lots going on, and Reggie, in all fairness, just wasn't that important in what was happening. Now they have said that Reggie is going to be a much more important character in season 2, and okay, that's fine. I understand that shows always need some time to sort of shake out the bugs, and first seasons are often that proving ground where they work things out and they kind of figure out really what are we going to do with this series long term. So okay, Reggie's going to be a more important character in season 2. That's fine. Now the overall mystery of what's going on this season. I mean, I thought that was really well done. It really did keep me guessing until the very end as to who was responsible for the big crime. And everybody, all the main characters, I mean, they all had stuff that was going on that was interesting. Betty's parents were interesting. Her sister was interesting. Archie's dad, played by Luke Perry, man. I mean, if you're old enough to remember the heyday of Beverly Hills 90210, which I am, that old. Luke Perry was a guy who, for a time, was like the hottest young guy on TV for a while, and now here he's back. And I never watched Beverly Hills 90210. I didn't really care for dramas back then, but he turns in a really great performance in this season. And speaking of which, I really have absolutely no complaints about any of the performances by any of the actors. And man, I mean, I knew Chris Sprouse from playing Ross's kid on Friends back in the day, but he was just like a kid playing a kid, so I had no real opinion about it. But man, I so love this guy as Jughead. I mean, this is a really radically different interpretation of the character. Jughead is one of the ones that got changed the most, but I really like what they did with Jughead. I know some people were kind of upset that in the current comics, at least the one series written by Mark Waid, who is a fantastic writer whom I love dearly, Jughead has openly been stated to be asexual. And here on the show, he is not. And, okay, it's just a different interpretation of Jughead. I understand why some people might feel a little unhappy about that, because there are not terribly many characters who are asexual in comics, or certainly not on TV. And I suppose this might sound rather cruel, but, well, attractive young people and romantic entanglements, that's a big part of the CW stock and trade, and they're not going to let a good-looking young fellow like Chris Sprouse not be used in that way. I mean, ain't happening. I always think of a really great quote from Will Smith when it comes to situations like this, in terms of like minorities and all of that in entertainment. And he said, and I quote, "Hollywood isn't black or white. It's sorry, it isn't in Hollywood. Okay, I might not be getting this exactly word for word, but in Hollywood, it's not about black or white. It's about all about green and quote. And yeah, that's what's going on here. I don't think anybody is deliberately trying to make anyone feel bad. It's just, this is what brings in the ratings, and this is what puts dollars in people's pockets, and that's entertainment. And it's certainly not as if that's what you want. If you want to see the asexual version of Jughead, well, go out and read those comics. I mean, I heartily recommend them. Mark Waid, I love his take on Archie. Again, and it's very similar in some ways to what's going on here on the show. It's a more grounded take on that universe, but certainly not as dark. So it's a little bit more the comedy drama take on Archie, where in the comics it was very much usually just the comedy and a minimum of drama. So let's see. Anything else that I want to talk about? Yeah, there were just a lot. I mean, like I said, I have no complaints about any of the actors. I can't really think of any of the characters that I didn't particularly care for. I mean, I was a little disappointed they didn't do more with Mr. Weatherby. Like I said, I was a little unhappy with what happened with Reggie being a side character, but, okay, I get it. So again, I mean, I do have a few quibbles here and there, but, all in all, I can't really find that much to complain about. I mean, I certainly think I have more to complain about on shows that I've been watching for years than I do with this season of Riverdale. It was a very tightly written, very enjoyable season, and I am totally looking forward to season 2. And like a lot of people, I am hoping that they are going to bring on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. And creators have even said that, this is something we're kicking around this idea, but Sabrina is a character with, of course, heavy supernatural elements. And Riverdale did just kind of out on the fringes imply that maybe there's some supernatural stuff going on. We'll see. I mean, it all depends on how they handle it. I think I've heard a rumor that they're tossing around the idea of Sabrina, if they do decide to have her on the show, being a runaway from a cult. Well, okay. I mean, it makes TV sense. But yeah, I would totally be down for that. Definitely excited to see more of Reggie next season. I also want to take a moment to really give some points to AJ Capra, who played Archie and did it really, really well. And I guess I should also point out that, here they have obviously changed the race of several characters on the show from the comics. And again, they changed, like Reggie became an Asian fella. The Pussycats went from being like two white girls and a black girl to being an all black girl group. And it's kind of implied Veronica might have some Latin heritage, things like that. And of course, Archie is played by a fellow of Samoan or New Zealand, some sort of Pacific Islander descent. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. And I'm okay with that. I know some people were a little unhappy that Chuck, who in the comics is normally a really nice guy, was portrayed as not such a nice guy here on the show. I kind of get where they're coming from here, but personally speaking, I think the show has obviously tried really hard to be inclusive and representative. And yes, there, in my mind, have been some steps. I mean, I do think that that's a valid criticism about Chuck's character. I've already mentioned I'm not super happy with what they did with Kevin. But, nothing's perfect. And I think the sincerity with which the show is trying to be representative of modern America is something that you can really sense. Nothing, in my personal philosophy, nothing crafted by humans can possibly be perfect, and that's doubly true for television shows. But I think that everybody who's making the show is trying really hard to make a show that's well written, well acted, and, as I said, representative of modern America and modern sensibilities. And while it's not going to knock it out of the park on every swing, it's a little unfair to imagine that. And that's not to say that we shouldn't offer up criticisms of things that we feel are legitimate issues. We absolutely should do that. But I guess we should try and just always remember, keep things in perspective, look at both the good and the bad, and as many people have advised in various situations over the years when you're having a conflict with someone, begin with an assumption of good intentions. If that proves to be incorrect later on, oh well, at least you tried. At least you gave someone else the benefit of the doubt. And in our enormously inflammatory culture these days, I think that is something that we desperately need. Anyway, I'll get down off my soapbox now and just kind of say, yeah, Riverdale season 1 is really, really fun, really good TV. Not going to be everybody's cup of tea for various reasons, but if you like CW style shows, if you like dramas and mysteries, give this show a try. And I am enormously looking forward to season 2. They've got very talented writers, very talented actors, and now that the show's had a season to work out the bugs and for everybody to kind of find their groove with it, I am seriously hyped for season 2. It cannot come fast enough in my opinion. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi, and please also join me on my Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Until next time, take care and have a good one.